Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Humanity has opened the gates of hell. That was the stark warning of UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres Wednesday as he opened a special summit on the climate crisis on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Guterres castigated wealthy nations and fossil fuel interests for failing to stop the burning of coal, oil, and gas. He did not invite leaders of the U.S. and China, the world's two largest greenhouse gas emitters, to address the summit, saying only those who take climate action seriously would be allowed to attend. Barbados' Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, noted the summit coincided with the UN Security Council meeting on Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
And I hope that in the same way we can take Ukraine seriously in the Security Council, that we can take the climate crisis seriously and the financing needs for it in the Security Council. This is as much a threat. In fact, it is a greater threat because more lives are at stake globally than are at stake in Ukraine.
In Washington, D.C., police arrested 4 people Wednesday as they held a peaceful protest demanding President Biden declare a climate emergency. It was the latest in a series of civil disobedience actions that have seen 14 arrested outside the White House in recent days. Wednesday's protest came as Biden announced the creation of the American Climate Corps, a paid training program for jobs critical to combating the climate crisis. The White House did not say how much it'll spend on the new Climate Corps, which was created through executive action and will have to draw from existing funding sources. With 20,000 positions, it's much smaller in scope than earlier proposals that envisioned a 300,000-member civilian Climate Corps. The Climate Action Group Sunrise Movement praised the plan as a visionary policy. Kano Arpels Josiah, a New York-based youth organizer of last weekend's March to End Fossil Fuels, said, quote, Biden clearly knows he can use his executive powers to take bolder steps on climate. It's time he used them to stop approving oil and gas projects, phase down drilling on public lands and waters, and declare a climate emergency, unquote. Scientists have found human-made climate change made Libya's extreme rainfall and flooding earlier this month 50 times more likely and 50% worse. The devastating flooding and dam collapse in Derna killed at least 4,000 people, with thousands of others still missing as rescuers continue their work.
Every day we extract bodies in indescribable numbers that cannot be imagined. The situation is tragic. Whole streets completely disappeared.
Earlier this week, officials in eastern Libya ordered reporters to leave Derna following large protests that blamed the tragedy on the government. Some Libyan journalists were reportedly detained. The area's internet and mobile networks also reportedly went down Tuesday. In Sudan, the UN's warning of a worsening child death crisis 5 months into a bloody war between Sudan's army and the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary group. Over 1,200 children have died of suspected measles and malnutrition in refugee camps. This is UNICEF spokesperson James Elder.
On the back of a cruel disregard for civilians and relentless attacks on health facilities, UNICEF fears that many thousands of newborns will die between now and the end of the year. 330,000 children will be born in Sudan between October and December. They and their mothers, as you heard, do need skilled delivery care, rather in a country where millions are trapped, millions are lacking access to those basic healthcare services.
CNN's reporting Ukrainian special services are suspected of being responsible for a series of drone strikes earlier this month on Wagner-backed militia forces in Sudan. Ukrainian officials said they could neither confirm nor deny the reports. CNN says Wagner has been supplying arms to the RSF in its battle against Sudan's military. Talks are underway between officials from Azerbaijan from the breakaway region of Nagorno-Karabakh 2 days after Azerbaijan launched a deadly military operation in the disputed territory and 1 day after a ceasefire was announced. On Wednesday, the Azerbaijani president, Ilham Aliyev, said his country has restored sovereignty over Nagorno-Karabakh, which is overwhelmingly made up of ethnic Armenians, but is recognized as Azerbaijani territory as part of a Russia-brokered ceasefire following the 2020 war. Meanwhile, protesters in Armenia took to the streets efforts to demand Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan resign for failing to support separatists in Nagorno-Karabakh who agreed to disarm Wednesday. Negotiators said today certain security guarantees would have to be agreed to before they permanently disarm. Residents of Nagorno-Karabakh have suffered food, fuel, and medical shortages due to an ongoing blockade by Azerbaijan, which has also led to accusations of genocide. The White House says it will once again allow U.S. households to order free COVID-19 tests through the mail, as disease experts warn of a likely surge of winter infections. This comes as the Biden administration's rollout of an updated COVID vaccine is off to a rocky start, with widespread reports of shipping delays and gaps in health insurance coverage for the shots. Some patients report they were charged up to $190 per shot at pharmacies, even though most private health insurance plans, along with Medicare and Medicaid, are required to pay the full cost of the vaccinations. Previously, the U.S. government purchased COVID-19 shots from manufacturers and offered them to all U.S. residents for free. The Senate's confirmed Air Force General Charles Q. Brown, Jr. as chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Brown becomes the second African-American after General Colin Powell to hold the role of the U.S. military's top commander. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer used a procedural maneuver to force a vote on Brown's nomination, circumventing a months-long blockade by Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville on military confirmations and promotions. Schumer also advanced confirmation votes to fill vacancies atop the U.S. Army and Marine Corps. Tuberville's delayed the Senate votes, citing opposition to the Pentagon's policy of covering the travel costs of employees forced to cross state lines to obtain an abortion. In a highly contentious congressional hearing Wednesday, Attorney General Merrick Garland defended the Justice Department's handling of its criminal investigation into President Biden's son, Hunter Biden. Biden was indicted last week on 3 felony charges related to his possession of a firearm. Special counsel David Weiss brought the charges after a federal judge in July rejected a deal that would have seen Hunter Biden plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax counts in order to escape more serious charges. Testifying to the Republican-controlled House Judiciary Committee, Attorney General Garland insisted he's kept his promise to not interfere with the investigation.
I am not the president's lawyer. I will add, I am not Congress's prosecutor. The Justice Department works for the American people.
In Colorado, a court heard opening statements Wednesday in the trial of 2 Aurora police officers who attacked and violently arrested Elijah McClain in 2019, leading to his death. McClain, a 23-year-old black man, was walking home from the store when he was tackled by police, placed in a carrot hold, and later injected with a powerful sedative ketamine. He died several days later. A prosecutor told jurors yesterday, quote, he was just walking home. His last words to officers Randy Redema and Jason Rosenblatt were, quote, I'm an introvert. I'm just different, that's all. I'm so sorry, unquote. Both men have pleaded not guilty to all charges, including criminally negligent homicide. And a new report from PEN America finds a 33% spike in the number of public school book bans during the 22-23 school year compared to the prior year. The report finds 40% of recent book bans occurred in Florida, where Governor Ron DeSantis and Republican lawmakers have imposed mass restrictions on books about race and LGBTQ issues in school libraries and classrooms. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.